Man down, man down. Nate Silver has fallen. The last person who was actually still forecasting Donald Trump to win. Not a pollster, but a full-on forecaster who's making their forecasts. All of the forecasts, 538, I think even RCP, pretty much everybody is out there saying, hey, Kamala Harris is probably going to win the election. They have a majority share. Maybe some of them are in the 60s and stuff like that. I think 538 might be at like in the 60% of a forecast. Or I think they do like their simulations and she's winning like over 60 of the simulations. But Nate Silver was this really random scenario. And I don't know if you guys have been getting those Kamala emails where it's like, hey, like Nate Silver has us down, like we're underdogs. Great strategy by her, by the way. But we saw Nate Silver, massive 64.4% for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris, 35.3%. It was unfathomable. I think the numbers started to converge and then Kamala Harris had taken the lead after she had become the nominee. And then suddenly, randomly, as the polls were all like surging for Kamala Harris, especially after the debate, it was like this massive surge for Donald Trump. It's like, what the hell is going on? How does this make any sense? What is going on? What is happening? So it looks like man down. So Trump's only guy has fallen. So we got the September 20 numbers that came out. Harris has regained the lead. So Harris 51.1%, Donald Trump 48.6%. So she has taken back a majority. So we have swing state chances of winning. Michigan 62-38. That's pretty close. I'd say Michigan at this point, though, I'd probably say she's cracking 50 in a lot of the polls. I think for the Rust Belt numbers in Michigan and Pennsylvania, the question is, I don't give a F what Donald Trump is getting. I don't care what his percent is. There's not much evidence of underperformance for Democrats in those two states. It's just that Trump always overperforms. And so pretty much the way you can kind of think about it is with Trump, you know, when he's about to whip out his willy, you think it's 1 inch and he whips out like a 3 or 4. You're like, whoa. And it's you're like, whoa, that's big, but it's not actually big. It was just you thought he was going to whip out a 1. So sort of comparatively, it's so much smaller. But for Kamala, you know, you're expecting like a 5, 6, 7. So if a 4 comes out, you're like, oh, what? But with Trump, you'd be surprised because Trump has a really, really high floor, but a very low ceiling. He's never been a majoritarian victor, I think, outside of like maybe like the 2024 primary. But he's never really been a majoritarian victor. He's only a pluralistic one. So he has to rely on you getting, less than the majority. However, if Kamala Harris is cracking 50 in the aggregate in those polls in those two states, because there's not much evidence of underperformance, I think Biden underperformed the average by maybe like 0.3 or something like that in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, which is not that much. That's all that matters. And then obviously once you have a majority, you know, you're fine. So that's more my question for her. So I think Michigan is, I think it's like 70-30 at this point. Wisconsin, they have Harris 55-45. Wisconsin is actually the one that I'm actually most concerned about because the polls are really, really horribly wrong in Wisconsin. And suspiciously, if you look at the numbers for Wisconsin, what ends up happening is in Wisconsin, you could see, I guess the numbers are starting to converge now because there was this Emerson College poll that just came out. But prior to this convergence, you could see 2.8 on September 17th, right? But if you take a look at Michigan, for example, on the 17th, it was 1.8, right? So it's been lower. So I think everybody knows that that's suspect because everybody knows Michigan is more blue than those other states. Michigan went blue by almost 3 points in 2020, for example, and it was only 0.23 red in 2016 compared to over 1 point or somewhere around 1 point or a little bit over 1 point back in 2016 for the other two Rust Belt states. So already highly suspect. It's because back in 2020 in Wisconsin, the polls were actually wrong by 7.7 points, an unfathomable war crime of an error. So Wisconsin is actually the most concerning for me, I would say. And even in 2000 and 2004, they went blue by like 0.2% or 0.5%. They've never really been like serious blues outside of 08 and 12, but those seem to be outliers probably because of the Great Recession. Pennsylvania, Harris 54-46. Pennsylvania is a toss-up state, but I do think this is probably kind of around there. But I do think Kamala's going to end up winning, probably like 60-40% chance. Nevada 53-47. Nevada's another close one. Nevada's actually a little bit concerning because her numbers don't look great. So you have to hope that she's getting underestimated. Another huge thing that probably secures her in Nevada is that Jill Stein is not on the ballot. So because Stein is not on the ballot, that's really, really good because she's actually polling pretty high in a lot of these polls. She's consistently getting 1 to 2%. So that probably clears it for her. North Carolina, 62-38 for Trump is pure insanity. North Carolina, I think, is like a 50-50 dogfight. Worst case scenario, maybe a 55-45 in favor of Trump. But NC is going to end up being a straight-up dogfight. Arizona, 65-35 for Trump is insane. Arizona, I think, is likely blue. They're just missing her support in some of those polls, but other polls have her leading. So in that state, you have Carrie Lake on the ballot, so there's going to be an anti-Lake vote, in my opinion. Gallegos does seem kind of popular, so I think there will be a vote for him. Abortion is also on the ballot. And then the Hispanic population not only comprises a much larger proportion of the state of Arizona compared to the other swing states, but they're far, far more progressive than any of the other swing state voters, I think because they skew young, so the relationship might be a little bit spurious. But the point is, there's basically no possible way. And we pretty much know that, Kamala Harris is doing really well with a lot of, young women voters, young Latino women, black women, etc. These people are going to get missed by the polls. You can see, Kamala Harris kind of fluctuating here. But Biden got underestimated in Arizona by 0.7. He ended up overperforming the numbers by 0.7. Only God knows how much Kamala Harris is going to overperform by in Arizona. And then Donald Trump is actually in a position also where I think he does have a hard cap in the state. I think his hard cap in the Sun Belt states, I think, is 49.5. I don't think he can cross those numbers. So again, he has to hope that, you end up underperforming, but there's only evidence of overperformance. Georgia as well, Trump 64-36. I think Georgia's a lock to go blue. Over 30% of the population is black. There's no way you lose Georgia. It's just impossible. Even if black male voters kind of slack off a little bit, black women will carry hard. And then that group is just all about turnout because they vote so heavily in favor of Democrats already. All you have to do is just shift up the turnout numbers. Also, there might be a moderate Republican vote that'll be able to help you in a state like Georgia. So I think Georgia is a lock. I would say Arizona is likely blue. I'd be shocked if it goes red. North Carolina is a fucking dogfight. I have no clue what's going to happen there. Nevada, likely blue. Pennsylvania, I would say lean blue. Wisconsin, I really have no idea. Michigan, I'd say it's basically a lock. I'll consider Michigan and Georgia locks. Wisconsin, no clue. Pennsylvania, lean blue, not likely blue, but lean blue. Nevada, likely blue. North Carolina, fucking dogfight, no idea. And then Arizona is, I would say, likely blue. So you could see here just like a massive, massive surge for Trump and Nate Silver. This is the post back on September 9th, and everyone's freaking out like, what on earth is happening? Trump is at 64.4. How is this possible? Everybody else has the opposite, the reverse permutation here. They have Kamala Harris in the 60s, and it's like, what is going on? But it looks like Kamala Harris is taking the lead. So Trump and his fans have been basically the only ones. This is the only one they've been able to tout. So you have them just freaking out. Not possible. A 31-point swing to Harris in 11 days. Absolutely ridiculous. Nate Silver will be proven fantastically wrong again. How can anyone trust this model if it has such wild swings in the span of a few days when literally nothing of note has occurred other than another attempt on Trump's life? That whole thing got really massively, overstated. They made it sound like it was like an attempt. It was like a plot that was foiled. Please tell me, what did Kamala Harris do in the last 11 days to flip the script? Nate Silver is a washed-up bookie, not a pollster. This one saying, well, when you lost even Nate Silver, here we go. The steal is officially on. Exactly where Trump wants to be, the underdog, according to polls and media. All the pressure is on Kamala. Let's see how she handles it. Last night with Oprah was an indication that she won't handle it well. So this is what we call copium. So you're trying to figure out a way to rationalize things. Something bad is happening, so you got to cope with it. So rationalize it. Hey, don't worry, man. And the polls aren't wrong, but this is where Trump wants to be. He wants to be the underdog. Yeah. LO's obvious prelude to the Democrats' attempt at another big steal. So again, obviously projection. That's literally what they're trying to do right now. There's just so many of these. So pretty much a lot of these people are just getting really, really, this guy, Bill Mitchell, is a loser. He says, I warned everyone not to trust Nate Silver. I knew it's exactly what he planned for after the debate. So predictable. And Nate Silver always has been and always will be a tool for the left. So again, just a lot of this stuff, his fans are just freaking out. The Trump fans who were like adopted Nate Silver fans, they're now really, really pissed off at Nate Silver. Like, oh man, F you, man, F you. But that's not the only one. So there's another forecaster as well, but I don't know if we want to call it a forecaster. It's kind of more of a market. It's called Poly Market. So they have actually also swung in favor of Kamala Harris. So she's now at 51% to 48% for Trump. She was all the way down to like 46, 47. This same betting market had Walz surging downwards and Josh Shapiro actually surging up on the night before Walz ended up getting picked. So you can't take it too seriously. Supposedly it's like crypto back, so maybe they have like a more right-wing leaning audience. But they have Wisconsin 57-43, Michigan 65-35, Pennsylvania 52-48. So this is actually a big lead for Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania in this market, because usually, last time I checked, I believe it was 50-50. However, the market does fluctuate a lot, so the next time you see this, it might change. Arizona, laughably, somehow 61-39, Georgia 58-42. How do you have North Carolina more likely than Georgia and Arizona? That's just like pure... I don't understand this. I just don't understand the forecasting or the modeling here. Maybe I guess you're going like strictly off the polls. What kind of idiot goes just off the polls and not like analyzing what the polls mean and context and history and stuff like that? I really have no idea. But what we have here is pretty much it's getting so bad for Donald Trump that his only two remaining forecasters, Polymarket, the betting market, and then Nate Silver, have both broke in favor of Kamala Harris. Again, this could both change back. And it'll be interesting to see if Nate Silver does this just to sort of regain that Trump audience. He doesn't really have any audience left, I feel like, so he might do this. And, you know, supposedly he's working for someone funding, or Peter Thiel is funding the company or something, I'm not sure. But he might come back to this just to sort of rev up the audience again. But really, really hilarious. So, you know, both things have fallen for, you know, Donald Trump in this scenario. The last two people saying, you know, he's going to win, they're out. So now you have to do the copium of, hey, Trump has Kamala where he wants her. You know, he's now the underdog. And it's like, all right, bro. Sure, buddy.